It's time for Clubhouse Chatter. Here's Norm Ordez.
Hey, good morning, and thanks for tuning in. For those who tuned in, excuse me, to hear Freddie Coleman of ESPN. Freddie got called in for a special assignment, and I'm not going to speculate on that, but I am going to guess that. Okay, I am going to speculate. I'm going to guess that it has something to do with Peyton Manning announcing his retirement. So we have Jim Campanis Jr. coming in, and before I get going with Jim, I just want to say today is the year anniversary of my dad's death. And my dad died a year ago on this date, and man, the year has gone by amazingly fast, Brian. You know, we took some time off for the show for a while, and but Dad, miss and love you every day. This is in honor of you today. With that said, Jim, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing just fine, Norman. And I remember it well. You're going through those tough times a year ago, and obviously my condolences go out to you and your family.
Well, thank you. You know, it kind of motivates me a little bit, because Dad always, he's an 8 to 5 guy. He was one of those guys who you had to work shift work and wanted, a normal 8 to 5 job or whatever. But I chose to go into baseball. And, at first he was kind of, what's that going to get you? Well, right. Here I am today, and, man, baseball has treated me well, and for somebody not playing, here I am with Clubhouse Chatter, though we're far from, a popular show, but, I get a chance to talk to some great baseball guys and, people with the passion for the game, and I'm living my dream, and not getting rich by it, which is okay. And so
dude, you're filthy rich, man. At the end of the day, your memories and the things that you've seen and done, and doing something you love, and to call it work, right? I mean, and that's, I think, kind of the secret to life, really, is. And I find myself on both sides of it, doing stuff that I have to do because I got to do it, and other stuff that I do because of the love of it, and sometimes, you make a buck doing the thing you hate doing, but you got to do it because you got to do it. And other times you gain experiences and knowledge and information and friendship, camaraderie, doing something because you want to, because
right.
you love, almost because you have to. Like that's how I feel about my music. I can't not play. You know what I mean? Like I have to. It's not even an option. I got to sit down and I got to play at least once a day, and that's just how it is. Where does that come from? I don't know. But I go above and beyond and do things in the music world that are really just volunteer for fun. Let's do it because we can kind of stuff, And so I think, if you frame what you're talking about in baseball, same exact thing,
I find it, baseball not only is the best sport around, it's also the toughest sport. I mean, you try to hit a 95 to 100 mile an hour fastball. But, the people that are in the games, and it's just like anything else, you're going to have your bad seed here and there. But my experience with baseball has been nothing but good. Everybody's open arms. And, I look at the list of people who I've had on the show and I'm like, holy crap. Fred Clare, a big wig in management and whatnot. He doesn't have to talk to a little guy with me, but he's a class act all the way around. And I use that because of your Dodger connections. And, but it's been an amazing ride, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
And so my first question for you, is being a Dodger, being in a Dodger family, what do you think of the new Dodger spring training hats with the D on it?
Well, so, when you say family, I will just tell you that the Dodger family has not been the Dodger family since like the 90s when the O'Malleys were basically forced to sell. And everything kind of is different. As soon as the corporations took over, even the people that stayed into their jobs, they had different jobs now. They had different titles. They had different obligations that they didn't have before, So it was one of those things where we kind of started feeling the loss of that family tie thing while I was still playing, back in the 90s. My dad started to see it more and more because he had been in the community relations department, and he would often go out. When I was a little kid, he would go out to these beaches a couple of times a week, and he actually had he actually brought with him a projector like you used to watching in your classroom,
Mm-hmm.
and a big reel-to-reel. 2 reels, like the empty one and then the full one of the 77 World Series and the 78 World Series, like the one that they used to put on TV. And he would play that at the Rotary Club, the whole half-hour version of it or whatever.
Right.
And all of that, like that whole sort of grassroots thing, going back to the old-timers games and everything, like all of that just sort of started to gradually disappear. And now today, they're trying to bring it back. And I think they're trying to do a good job of it. It's totally different. 20 years later.
Right. So with that said, the D on the dot.
Well, that's a good example that's a perfect example where they're trying to create sort of this new retro thing. You know what I mean? It's like, that's still the D though on our uni. Okay, and it's not a real season game, so let's put the D up there and let's try to create a new tradition and a new heritage. And I speculate at some point the red number on the front of the jersey might change. These are these traditional things. I went to USC where the same uniform has been played since 1890 something, and then Pete Carroll came in and took a stripe off the sleeve of the arm, like one stripe, and people went nuts.
People freaked out. Yep.
Yeah, and so I'm just saying, so you can look at it. I think it depends on what side of the traditional fence you lay on.
Right.
And I'm sure that the merchandisers and the people that wear hats love it because now they got a new one to buy, But the traditionalists are probably. I saw a guy walking around L.A. yesterday with an upside down L.A. and it actually looked pretty cool.
Huh.
It was the L.A. Dodger logo upside down. So certainly like a swap meet,
Right.
But at the same time, and I thought, people are getting creative with it. I guess the Dodgers can too, right? So
I kind of like it, but it is spring training, and so I'm man, the Dodgers moniker is one of those that really, hasn't changed too much over the years.
Right.
Them and the Cardinals and the Yankees and whatnot. God, leave it alone. Leave it alone.
When I signed with the Mariners in '88, they had the upside down trident, logo, and then they went to this S logo for a minute, and then they went to like the darker blue color. Like all of this happened in the span of like 5 years, and the Dodgers haven't moved anything in the span of 100-something years. You know what I mean? Like that's a good example. And you see, like the Cubs haven't really done much, but they're trying to soup up that that traditional look and feel. And I actually like when they do the throwback games, because I remember like the Pirates wearing those like gold hats, and those are the ones my dad wore in those unis with the gold piping and the back when they weren't wearing sleeves sometimes, on the road and stuff. I think that's just super cool. But at the same time, when you think about it, at that time, that was cutting edge stuff in 1967 or whatever when
Absolutely.
They were wearing sleeveless, So I don't know. I think sometimes it's cool to sort of stay within the traditional guidelines and try new stuff. So I'm not against the D either. It did surprise me the first time I saw it, and I thought maybe Dave Roberts had something to do with that because of the D thing, but maybe not.
Maybe not. So you were speaking of a swap meet, and so the other day you posted a picture of your old Mexican League logo on a hat. It looked like a straw hat that you had seen at it. And so let's chat about your Mexican days. a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny. Yesterday I was just everybody was busy. My whole family was busy, and usually we have something fun to do on Saturdays. And there was nothing. So there's a swap meet that I used to go to even when I was a little kid, and it's really like very heavy Mexican, and really like it was what it was like when I went down to Mexico. There's certain parts of it, like the fruit stand area and the chilies, but they had a vendor there like that had like every Mexican league, everything, And so I bought a T-shirt. I got my Caneros T-shirt, and there it was. But that got me feeling nostalgic about the time I had down there and the wonderful people. And I mean, this book that I wrote, like there's a chapter called Baseball in Faraway Places, and it details some of the things that we saw and did that just were like extraordinary, and some of the things you go through when you're in really it's a third world country, and the economy is unstable, and the police can be bought, and drugs and criminals and corruption are rampant, and yet everybody's got just an awesome attitude and smiles on their faces, and I don't know, it was a total life-changing experience, and I don't know if I would recommend people do what we did. My wife is even pregnant with our oldest while we were down there, but we walk away with that. Again, you talk about, I made a little bit of money, but it wasn't about that. I walked out of there with just unbelievable amounts of experience and still lasting friendships, with some of the people down there. I remember going to a game in Culiacan, and they didn't like the call the umpire made, so they pelted in with like M80s and cherry bombs and smoke bombs. I couldn't believe and we had to come off the field. It was so bad. And I'm like, and it was like, well, that's normal. Like he should have made it. You can't make a call like that. And so I swear the rest of that game, every call was a Culiacan because they didn't want to get cherry bombed. And so, what can you do? You just look at them and like, I don't want to get hit with this stuff either. So yeah, I'm out. Yeah, I'm out. Okay, cool.
So how else? So besides the playing the game of baseball aspect of it, how different was it? I know the crowds are quite a bit different. I mean, you've got whistles, you've got no more noisemakers.
Cheerleaders.
It's cheerleaders. It's a party. I mean, it is a party going on.
The weirdest thing for me really was like, how like in America, we're a very diverse population. Well, down there, like everybody's got black hair, like everybody. You know what I mean? So you look up in the stands, and there's just a sea of people with black hair, like 10,000 people with the same color hair. That was the first thing I noticed. They knew every single thing about us. Like the newspaper down there had such high readership. Like if you got in the paper, I mean, you couldn't walk the streets the next day. People went nuts. We were on the radio. I knew just enough Spanish, and I did radio interviews. And they would ask me the question in English, and then I would answer in Spanish. So they really didn't understand it as well as I could just spit out some words. And but just eating, just like what are we going to eat today? That was a daily struggle. My wife is pregnant, and so we both got super sick when we got there. It's kind of dangerous. It's very dangerous for her, and the baby. So we were really, really careful, and we started just eating raviolis and cooking them on a hot plate in our hotel room because we knew we were going to get sick at least from raviolis, and it was an interesting and kind of challenging existence, but at the same time, like it was awesome. I mean, at the end of the day, some of the experiences. I kind of lost track of the question, but at the end of the day, it was a great time.
So you mentioned your book, Born into Baseball, and so when has that officially came out yet?
It's almost there. So these are things I didn't know about, but you gotta, once you write it on a Word document, then you turn it into a PDF, so changes can't be manipulated or whatever, and then it's got to be like typeset, and the picture's got to be put in there, and so we're at the final. This next week, we'll be doing the final editing in the Word document section. Then it's going to switch over to the PDF and the typesetting and dropping the pictures in. And then we will have something for, in about maybe 3 weeks, we're going to have something to send out for book reviewers and to try to get some interest on radio and TV and things like that, to do some interviews and stuff. And then which should be ready. My publisher's saying late April, and we kind of decided to go a little longer than originally planned, and that kind of was a byproduct of him being from the East Coast and telling me that they don't really see baseball. Even it's just not in their mind out there until a little bit later. Whereas I think on the West it's a little bit earlier because of our weather. But nonetheless, that also give the time of the season and the excitement to kind of not get in the way of our promotional stuff. And then looking at early May through the summer of doing book signings wherever I can get a couple of people together and tell some stories and sign some books and have some fun.
So the book title is Born into Baseball, Laughter and Heartbreak at the Edge of the Show. And
Yep.
So what prompted you to write this book?
Well, I mean, the beginning of it was literally boredom and some other reason. I just told you earlier about I have to play baseball, and for some reason I felt like I had to write some of this down, and I started putting some of it on Facebook, and at the time I was really just friends with some high school people, some college people, a couple ex-baseball friends, but really not people that I hadn't met yet, like yourself, and before I knew it, I was finding more of your friends and more and more and more and more, and I decided, well, I'll keep writing, and this stuff kind of became therapy. And some of the topics delve into more emotional things, and kind of what it's like when you're identified as a baseball player for 28 years of your life, and then one day they're like, well, now you're not. Figure it out, and there's no roadmap, there's no support system other than your family, but all they're going to say is do whatever you want, which is great, except I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. I didn't know anything else, and
Right.
So and then my friend Lance passed away, and I had already written about 150 stories, and I thought I'd just sort of someday slap them together in a book and self-publish them, but I don't know, something happened where it really motivated me to try to get the stories out more for the sake of him getting some a little bit of notoriety and let people know who he is and what he's done as a player, but also he left behind dozens and dozens, hundreds of buddies that just a super special guy, and so that kind of, he ends up being the last story in the book. It ends up being the last story I put in the book, and then it goes into an outro, kind of an ending summary, but that was a big motivating factor. And I guess the other one was my grandpa was, obviously wrongly, I feel a lot of people wrongly accused of being a racist with his
Right.
comments on that. And I have a ton of insight to his real personality and his real character, and I wrote about a lot of these stories and people he helped, who would obviously not help these people if they were racist, So I always kind of joke that his only sort of racist slant was against players of any color who couldn't play baseball, or he didn't like you. That was his only. He liked baseball players who were, and he was going after Japanese guys when that was unheard of.
Right.
So those are the two, I think, ultimate contributing factors. Besides my own little ambition to get it out, was really Lance and my grandpa, and a lot of people supporting me. I think some people wanted to put it out more than I did, and that's cool. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. You're a great storyteller. On Facebook and listening to you, talk about the stories, and I'm excited for the book to come out, and I can't wait to get our hands on it and to read it. And you talked a little bit about your grandfather. And so this season, I believe it's the Tampa Bay Rays are making a trek to Cuba to play, I don't know, is it a game or is it a series or what? But your grandfather, didn't he spend some time in Cuba playing?
Yeah. He, back in the day, just like it is now, the winter leagues are fairly thriving, and as a player, or a manager, you know, you can make better money, you know, over a short amount of time than you ever make, you know, in your day jobs during the regular season. So my grandpa, I'm not sure he went down as a player. He might have, and I should ask my dad. But I know for sure he went down as a manager, and he managed it, and he would scout the Cuban players, like in the universities and stuff, in the amateur leagues, while he was down there managing the Cuban winter ball team. And he actually ran across, I don't know if I told you this, but he ran across a pitcher at Havana University, and this pitcher didn't throw very hard, but he had a pretty good curveball, and I thought, well, you know, this guy might be a decent, spot starter or long reliever, maybe we'll offer him basically a plane ticket and a basic contract to come to America and play ball. The guy said, "Nah, I think I'm going to stay at the university, and I got some things going on." But that was Fidel Castro, you know. So, can you imagine if he had said, "Yeah, you know what? Let me try my hand at baseball in America," you know? I doubt there would have been a revolution. I doubt there would have been a lot of things that unfortunately suppressed those people for all those years. Had he just said, "Yeah, let me try to throw that curve down there up there in Florida or whatever." So
isn't that crazy? You know, when you think of it like that, you know, I mean, you know, here he is, a pitcher, and he has an opportunity to come to the United States to play baseball, but he chooses not to. But how different would it have been if he would have came to America and pitched?
Yeah, and even if he had only played for a couple of years, that certainly would have derailed whatever was happening, this groundswell that he was a big part of in Cuba at that time.
Right.
And he was a leader, and he was a very motivating personality who got things going, got people charged up. And, yeah, if he was out rah-rahing his team in the Carolina League, I mean, it would have been a little bit different, right? So,
you know, love him or hate him, you know, and most people I'm sure hate him, but I mean, he's a baseball fan. You know, he's a huge baseball fan. And you had told me that story once before, and I love that story, you know, and it just, you know, goes to show you, you know, I mean, baseball, you know, there's so many stories out there like that. You know, I think I told you, I don't know, stop me if I did, okay, but we went to Japan, and, like, we don't know that language at all. In fact, I didn't know Japanese, so I had no clue what any words were, but I was, you know, a single dude, and I was trying to hit on the girls, and I'd be like, hi, and I found out later hi means yes, so obviously that did not work very well for me. Right.
But as soon as we got on the field and the game started, and you know, baseball was like, it was now this like international language, and you know, even the umpires, wherever you go, they call it a ball and a strike. There's like not a word in their language for ball and strike. They say ball and strike, you know. And I remember I learned how to say, where was that? It was like Dodo Deska or something, you know. And the umpires would crack up in Japan because, like, I knew just enough Japanese to, like, you know, kind of be a jerk. But I will tell you, one time we got on our bus. This is in the Team USA in Japan, and we got on our bus after a game. We had just beaten the Japanese team, and somebody had a huge game, like Jim Abbott or one of these guys, just pitched really well. And this crowd wouldn't let us on the bus, and they had to, like, have the guards pull us onto the bus. And these people started shaking the bus and wouldn't let us leave. And we were, like, kind of scared because there were thousands of them, right? And finally, the interpreter stood up and asked if we would go outside and sign autographs. And he gave us a bag. They gave us a bunch of, like, hotel bags. And we didn't know what the bags were for. And they explained that it's a tradition in Japan that if someone asks you to sign something, they're going to give you a gift in advance to sign. And we thought, okay, that's cool. And yeah, by the time we got on the bus, man, I had this huge sack of stuff, and they were wonderful people, and we signed all kinds of everything you could imagine, and people gave us everything you could imagine, from food to pins and other stuff. But did I ever tell you I got a Twinkie in that little bag of tricks?
You did, and it was like a fish Twinkie or something like that.
It was worse. It was purple octopus gravy and tentacle inside of a freaking Twinkie. That's
wow.
Just unfair, man. We had been there for almost 2 weeks, and it's like I had eaten nothing but Japanese food, which is great stuff. But like a Twinkie, like, you know, finally I'm going to get some semblance of America here, you know. And Yeah, no, that worked out not so well. But the point is, I think, is that we would be dropped off in some field in Mexico, and once again, the universal language was baseball, and we played ball, and nobody cared that half the guys didn't know the language, and the other half did. So once again, I think we have the World Baseball Classic this year, and so that's always fun for me too to see how that plays out in the national rivalries, and it's going to be interesting. I think Cuba's losing too many players, though. They used to be pretty competitive. I think
right.
They're going to have a rough one now after we got all their good guys.
Yeah, I think so. We got World Baseball qualifying going on this year. I think the actual WBC happens next year. But no,
okay.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating to watch all these countries, play baseball, and take away your traditional Latino countries and Japan, but Korea is really good. Brazil, Israel now, and I was chatting with former major leaguer, now minor leaguer Ray Chang, who plays with Team China. And he said China within the next 10 to 15 years are going to be on the world stage in baseball. And I mean, it's awesome. Did
you just hear? I just saw a news article today, and I only saw the headline, but maybe we should do some research. But I think the Pirates have signed the very first African-born player to a major league contract.
Yeah, Gift Ngobe. Yeah, that kid can play.
And I had not heard of that. And again, I just as you brought it up, I just read about it this morning. I was going to just crack that article open and read the whole thing, but it just brought to mind, a lot of these like developing countries are able to put a baseball field together. I have maybe 10 friends on Facebook now who are playing in various leagues in Africa, and some of them, and I'm trying to maybe get some awareness. And I mean, they need some equipment, and they're not asking for money. They just want baseballs and gloves and bats, And I think that's awesome. And so I'm trying to get the word out to some friends who maybe have some influence in donating stuff from their high school coach, and they're getting new gear. They can donate some stuff to these guys, but. That's wonderful to me, and I hope to see baseball continuing to grow in countries that, like in Europe, that to me looks like a really untapped market. And it's just funny because we all take it for granted that playing catch, but and throwing, we all throw pretty proficiently. Americans compared to other countries, you watch countries that never picked up a glove or a ball and watch them throw later in life, like. It's kind of sad,
Right.
It's like, and I know these guys have talent, but they're just not predisposed to the game as early as we are. You know what I mean? Growing up.
Well, I had the opportunity. So I came across a gentleman, Richard Stanley. Richard Stanley is part owner of the Trenton Thunder, and he has a school in Uganda. Excuse me. And so. The Ugandan boys been to Williamsport twice now. And I remember watching them play back a couple of years ago and just watching the athleticism of these kids. They didn't have the baseball skills, but they were athletes. So last summer, the girls softball team, 11-12 softball team made an appearance in Portland, Oregon with the Girls World Series softball. And we had a chance of helping them out a little bit. We got kicked out by Little League, but we put on a mini clinic for about a half an hour, 45 minutes before we got kicked out. And I was amazed by these girls. They were sponges. And, once they learn just the little things about the game, man, I mean, their athleticism is going to take over. And it was an amazing experience. Probably top in my baseball experiences, and just the will that they want to play, and man, they are so athletically, they're not too far off. And, not only in Uganda, but elsewhere, Germany, you've got, Minnesota Twins has Max Kepler, the first German-born player. And I mean, he's turning heads in spring camp now. And I mean, it's it's more of a world game than what it ever has been.
Yeah, and I love it when there's like a great documentary about Curacao, a little small island off the coast of Venezuela, who's constantly in the Little League World Series, and they showed this documentary on how hard these kids work.
Yep.
The heartache, the heartache for not making the team, all of the things that, for me, I often think, some of these people who live in these like cush places that are the beautiful tropical island, they live stress free. Well, no, there's plenty of stresses in life. They just manifest differently than our worries about our mortgage or whatever, stress.
Right.
And I just happened to get really kind of emotionally tied into this group of boys and coaches who, like, the dads go to work for a few hours and work and manual labor just to make enough money so that they can come back and coach the kids the rest of the day. And it's a total sacrifice on every single person in that group's part as a collective unit. And isn't that what we all did as players? And any team I was ever on, it was a total sacrifice for the collective unit. And although it was supposed to be, not everybody followed that. Some guys had their own agendas and whatever, right? But a team operates as one entity, like a colony of ants, to try to to get to the end result, right? And that's winning. And so, I just before you called me, I watched the Battered Bastards of Baseball last night.
Love that show.
Just bored, and I happened to be flipping through Netflix, and I saw it. I'm like, I got an hour and a half to kill. It's like I watched it for the first time again. For those of you that don't know, Kurt Russell, the famous actor's dad, was the sheriff of Bonanza, and Bonanza had just finished its 13-year run, and he had a couple of bucks and found out he could buy a baseball team. There were no independent teams at that time. And he did this just for the love of the game. He had always loved the game, and you wouldn't think the sheriff on Bonanza was like such a huge baseball fan, but he really had wanted to be in an organization. Anyway, I highly recommend you checking that out because it's deeper than just a nostalgic look at a ragamuffin group of guys. It's a really kind of, I think, telling story of what it's like on the inside of the game. And Kurt Russell was actually a really good player, played on that team.
He was.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I just and I'm friends with Matt Franco, who's Kurt's nephew, and
Yep.
being Russell, that's Franco's grandpa. So anyway, we talked about it. I had lunch with Matt Franco not too long ago, and we talked about that. And he's so proud of the movie. He's in it just for a second, just picture him or something. But his cousins are the ones that produced that.
Yes.
So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, we have watched it a couple of times. In fact, we have had Jim Swanee Swanson, who was a left-handed catcher, and then
No way.
and then we had Frank Peters, who managed that team. We've had him on a couple of times, and so yeah, we're pretty close to that.
I
show.
I thought of you because it's in your backyard.
Yeah.
And I figured you knew a little bit about it. But then when you called me this morning, I was like, wow, man, I got to talk about those battered bastards of baseball.
I, as a baseball fan, I got screwed because the Portland Mavericks. So I believe during that run, we were in Germany. My dad was in the Army, and so we were living in Germany. But I remember as a kid, when we'd come stateside, we would go to minor league games. So I remember watching the El Paso Diablos and things like that. But, I look back at the Portland Mavericks, and my mom's parents always lived in the area. And so how we never made it to a Portland Mavericks game, I have no idea. And I feel like I got screwed because that was, they played baseball the way it should be played, hard, and they won,
Right.
And minor league baseball, Major League Baseball didn't want them to succeed because of their independent status. And I did. I totally got hosed that I never got to go see a Mavericks game.
Yeah, and I just saw in the paper today too, or in the the Facebook news or whatever, they're talking about considering Portland for a major league expansion team as well. So
yeah.
maybe you'll get your the baseball gods are going to come back and hook you up later.
Man, I have mixed feelings about Major League in Portland. Of course, I hope it happens, but I just don't know if Portland's ready. I don't know.
Baseball's going to do tons of due diligence on that one with the likes of OKC and some of these like a Charlotte, who's been able to support. I think Buffalo might even be in the mix.
Montreal, let Montreal have a team again.
Yeah.
So you were talking.
I keep hearing about. I'd love to see 2 more teams come on, but at the same time, is that going to thin out what's already kind of thin in some areas?
I think so. But you were talking about Curacao and Andrelton Simmons, who is a infielder with the LA Angels of Anaheim, or the California Angels, as I like to still call them. He was one of those Curacao kids, and I've been watching some spring training baseball, and there's talk of him being the best defensive player in the game today. His struggles is he has issues hitting the ball, but defensively he is freaking a stud.
Well, I got to play a little bit with Omar Vizquel, and he was also, kind of, I wouldn't call him a weak hitter, but he wasn't a guy. He could beat you, and he was a smart hitter, but he wasn't a masher. But at the same time, he was adequate enough with the bat that it didn't matter because he saved you so many runs, as a shortstop. And I remember I threw a ball down one time to him, and he picked it and tagged the guy, and it was so fast it looked like my throw had made it in the air. You know what I mean? It was like he was so smooth, and his footwork, his feet were so quick that it just looked effortless.
Right.
And I think that's very similar to the guy. I can't remember. I remember the trade that they picked him up, and I kind of did a little research on him, and that's all they kept saying: best defensive player. But so I look forward to seeing him. Unfortunately, in LA, we don't get to see the Angels. I mean, we can see them on cable and whatever, but I'm often running around, and I watch a lot of games on my phone. Like I watch them on driving in traffic. We got terrible traffic here, of course.
Right.
And if I'm stuck in traffic for an hour, I'll flip my phone on and watch a game and going 5 miles an hour on the 10 freeway. Big deal. I love watching the Angels play because of my favorite players. My favorite player is Mike Trout. Love watching that guy play, watch him hit. He just, he creates opportunities for his team. And what more could you ask for?
He's amazing.
So, yeah, and I've seen him beat teams going 0 for 5 because he made great plays in the outfield and got on base with a walk or somehow got on base, and then his base running ended up being the difference in the game. I mean, you can't say enough for that guy. And I was a little bit like I think a lot of people thought Pujols got a little bit exorbitant of a contract that didn't make very good sense. His first couple of years, it kind of always looked like he had the stink face, like he had a bad attitude or something. And then I learned a few more things about him. I talked to people in the organization about him, and I learned how much he's taken Mike Trout under his wing and how much Mike Trout's really appreciated that. And they're actually, they just announced it on the commercial on TV out here. There's a dual bobblehead giveaway with Trout and Pujols on the same bobblehead, like knuckle bumping or whatever they're like.
That's awesome.
And again, I look at it and I think, wow, how lucky is Mike Trout for having that body, that ability, and then to have a mentorship by someone who apparently, by all accounts, is a fantastic guy and a great team player and someone who's willing to take on the responsibility of helping a young star, stay the course. And so I've become an Angels fan because of the personality-driven stories within that clubhouse more so than the team down the street.
Right. I'm a big Pujols fan, and I don't know him. I haven't met him, but I've heard stories, and he's been hurt over the last 2 or 3 years with the Angels, and he also has a special needs child at home as well, and so I've heard all the stories about him taking Trout under his wing and, helping him become a professional ball player. And yeah, I'm a big Pujols fan as well. And
you heard about Jock Peterson's brother is also special needs, and Pujols that Jock Peterson had become super close friends because they both are supporting.
Right.
I believe it's it's either autism or Down syndrome.
I believe it. Yeah, it's Down syndrome. I believe.
Yeah, and the supporting those charities, I think it's wonderful. And to me, like, that's a perfect example. Two guys who are maybe 15 years apart in age, 10 years apart in age at least, have figured out, found a way. Common ground is baseball, and then they find another commonality where they can use their baseball status as a platform for awareness. I think that says a lot, not just about Pujols, but also the people in the game in general. And we alluded to that in the beginning of this segment, that the people in this game are really what make the game more so than the game itself.
Oh, absolutely. You know what I mean? I'm tickled pink every time I come on with Clubhouse Chatter. I'm just tickled pink on the people that I have, like yourself, Fred Clare. I've got Ron Say coming on the 11 o'clock hour. I mean, you guys could tell me no. I mean, I'm a nobody in the baseball world. I'm just a guy who hosts a show, but it's not that way.
Well, you got to play the Ron Say playing the third base bag song when he comes on.
The what?
You know his songs, his music?
I don't.
Oh, dude! I'm sorry, I should have told you about this before, but in the '70s, my dad produced a record, 2 songs, with another producer friend of his, and Ron Say sang 2 songs. And if you go and basically go on YouTube and Google Ron Say Sings, or you can go to my YouTube page and look up Ron Say. I got it on. It was like an ESPN magazine. It got into, like, ESPN picked it up, and I made these videos that are on YouTube with the real songs that I got off of the records. I ripped the records and kind of I did like a little tribute to Ron. And
there it is, right there.
Loves it.
He
loves it. So there's third base bag, and the other one's called One Game at a Time. And my dad and Ron rap in the middle of it, like they do a little talk. It's classic, dude. And one of them, One Day at a Time, is kind of disco-y.
Yes.
And then playing the third base bag's a little country, because in the '76 that was right when Saturday Night Fever and Urban Cowboy were ruling the day. So
that is funny.
You gotta. He loves it, by the way. He knows it was like a lark just for fun, and he's proud of it just for what it is. But you could ask him about that. It was a lot of fun.
In fact, I found it. I found the third base bag on YouTube under yours. Yeah.
There's a ton of hits on it because was it Dana Epstein from, I think he works with Rolling Stone. It was in Rolling Stone magazine. He's like a sports guy with Rolling Stone magazine. He got it onto the Rolling Stone website. I wrote a story about these songs, and just a boatload of people started watching them, these videos, and so
that's funny.
It's kind of fun. Yeah,
that's awesome.
But that's growing up in baseball. My dad is like, yeah, Ron, you can sing. You want to sing? Okay. Make the studio together, and so pretty classic.
Once again, Mr. Jim Campanis. Hey, do you know how the Cottonmouth Kings album, new CD, is doing with your song on it?
So it got to number 8. That's the highest that I'm aware of on the rap album charts, because I'm so hip hop, and that happened back in September. And then they released the Greatest Hits album most recently, but they've been on tour, and as they go on tour, they have little spikes of sales, and I'm kind of interested to see what royalties are like. I've always heard the music business is kind of like taking a dump recently, and so March 18th, I'm supposed to find out what the first round of royalties look like, and I'm expecting at least $20. So
Wow.
I figure I'll go buy a 12er and sit down and play more guitar. So.
All right. So final question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot. And so you're playing the game today. What song would you use as your walk-up song?
Oh. Wow. Well, I guess if I was okay, so I have to tell you that I used Paradise City in my very first year in pro ball. With
Right.
My ball at Rocket, and it got me too excited. Like I walked up to the plate like I just listened to the Rocky theme song, and it's not good to hit when you're in that state of mind.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I switched it to Life's Been Good, where it's like much more of a mellow little guitar lick at the beginning, So I would have to think about it, because my first instinct would be something like Motivation, like Godzilla, or something that was all like stomping and loud and obnoxious. But I'd have to probably come back and change it, because same thing would have happened. So I don't know, man. That's a good question. I'll have to think about that and hit you back.
Mine changes all the time. It just, depending on my mood.
Careless Whispers.
Man, no, it would not. It would not, But, I like the good old guitar riffs, like Walk by Pantera or Snap Your Fingers, Snap Your Neck by Prong. But I could see where that one gets you a little excited at the plate too. But, yeah.
I might throw some Primus in. I mean, I've been getting it for some reason. Like, I'm really getting into odd time signatures and weird, killer, jazzy, rock, fusion-y stuff. So, I've been getting into some older Primus, and he's the Les Claypool is just ridiculous, and he has a whole like Pink Floyd vein that, I mean, it's unreal with the stuff he's doing. Pink Floyd, and you're like, how does that fit? But it's awesome, And so. Yeah, I might have slipped in. What is it? Too Many Puppies. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
yeah. Les Claypool.
That'd be kind of a fun song.
He is a musical genius, and there are so many songs. Bill the Cat. You've got Jerry Was a Race Car Driver.
Right.
I mean, but yeah. Too Many Puppies. Too Many Puppies. That's a good one. That is a good one.
Yeah, because that would have been just right about where it didn't get me too excited, but it got me just focused and in the zone with that little bell on the cymbal, and I think that's a good one right there. Too Many Puppies. That'd be my walk up for 2016 season, I guess, right?
I like that. So once again, Jim Campanis Jr. Jim, hey, we got to have you back on when the book comes out, and we'll chat more about that.
Love to talk to you next month, late next month. Let you know where it's all coming out of and what it's all about. That'd be awesome.
All right, sounds good, Jim. Hey, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. All right, once again, Mr. Jim Campanis, and we got to go check out the Ron Say Third Base Bag song here. So I'm Norm. That is Brian. We are sponsored by baseballisms.com. If you like my hat, you could buy it on baseballisms.com. We are also sponsored by baseballdudes.com. To be the best, you must train like the best. Chris Gazelle up there in Vancouver, Washington. Also, Base by Pros, building an athlete sports education. Mitch Canham, skipper Mitch Canham of the Clinton Lumber Kings, and his dad Mark Canham does our Clubhouse Chatter shirts, MDM Designs. And we stream live every show, yamhilltoday.com. And if you'd like to sponsor the show, we're always looking for sponsors. normbo18@gmail.com. Once again, I'm Norm. That is Brian. We'll be back at 11 o'clock with the Penguin, Washington State alumni. Well, I don't know if he's an alumni, but he played at Washington State. Ron Say. Thanks for listening.